I want to try and understand something you mentioned very briefly, which is the strategic importance of not just the equity stake, but the partnership on technology, and not just for NVIDIA, but for America. Why are you moving into this domain?
One, we announced a brand new platform for a new market we've never been in. And so that's number one. Number two, if we take advantage of this transition from general purpose computing to accelerated computing, from old types of software to AI, we can take advantage of this transition of AI and 6G for America to win back telecommunications again. It's been a long time since the American telecommunication network has been built on American technology.
You used the word national security, I believe.
For national security reasons, for economic reasons, our industry should be built on American technology, and for the very first time, we can do that. We have a brand new product line that takes advantage of computing, accelerated computing, and AI, and we have a great partner to help us do it with, Nokia.
The market reaction kind of speaks for itself. There was a time when Nokia was already looking to America. You've been in the role since April, but may I start by asking you what role the administration played in bringing you both together, if this is indeed a strategic priority?
Well, I don't think there was anything specific that the administration did, other than they've created the environment to support innovation. I mean, Jensen's talked about manufacturing, but it's also about R&D and innovation and technology leadership. And if you think about where this world is going and all those incredible devices that are going to be built on NVIDIA platforms, robotics, autonomous vehicles, augmented reality, virtual reality, we need a different kind of network in the future. And that's what we realized. And that's why we wanted to forge this partnership, so that we're building a network leveraging AI for AI services. And that's really the big change here.
And the technology is flowing both ways. I mean, what is it that you will be able to do with Nokia, Jensen, that you weren't able to do on your own?
Well, first of all, Nokia is in all of the world's base stations. And this AirScale platform of Nokia is in millions of base stations around the world. If our computers are not inside that base station, it doesn't help. It's no different than NVIDIA's tech computing platforms not inside a car, it doesn't help. And so the first thing is we need a partner to get us into the world's space stations. We also, remember, we're bringing AI to radio networks, AI to RAN, so that we can make wireless tech communications a lot more efficient. Second, we're bringing AI for the radio, meaning on top of these radio networks and these telecommunication network, we're going to be able to provide AI services, which is going to be able to make it easier for us to do robotics and autonomous vehicles and industrial automation and reach all of the different places around the world. That's kind of hard to do with Wi-Fi. Cellular reaches everything. And so we now have this fabric that we can deploy AI computing services on top of. It's going to be completely revolutionary.
In your world and in your market, Huawei is an influential player, not just in Europe, I think also about the Middle East and Africa. How important is the relationship with NVIDIA to be able to counter, what Huawei does in those markets?
Yeah, look, I think for us, one of the principles I've had with my team since coming in has been do what we can do that no one else can do, and that is AirScale, what we do with any RAN software, the software that runs on it that we're going to be putting on the NVIDIA ARC platform. That do what we can do well and partner with the best everywhere else. And this is a clear opportunity to partner with the best. And by the way, that's where America and the Western world succeeds, because we don't necessarily have one company doing everything like Huawei. We succeed because we partner aggressively. And if you watch GTT today, it was hard to not find it obvious that you're partnering with everybody. But that's the advantage, is this partnership. So we do what we do best. We let NVIDIA do what they do best, and ultimately our customers win. And ultimately, for America, I think America will win because there'll be more innovation faster here.
Jensen Huang is seemingly doing everything right. I mean, short of gifting President Trump a golden GPU, he is courting the president in terms of echoing some of the sentiment that the administration has regarding manufacturing in America, et cetera, and then also making all these partnerships, which seems to be the way to put market cap onto your company these days. Ink a partnership, and the rest will follow.
Well, he even referred to it as a virtuous cycle. And so at what is called, today was called unofficially the Super Bowl of AI. All the companies, whether it's Palantir, CrowdStrike, you name it, these are the companies that certainly will be part of it. And what we've already learned about NVIDIA over the last call it 2 months, is that they really are an AI infrastructure company, and the way they are investing and the way these deals have seemed somewhat circular in nature. Just getting to the numbers that we got, that the analyst community now is scrambling over, and what it means for valuations, and a 4% move in NVIDIA is probably the bigger move we've seen in NVIDIA in a long time. If you read at least some of the analyst reports that I'm getting, what's been implied by this $500 billion or half a trillion number is a lot of the street was somewhere between Blackwell and Hopper, somewhere around 350 to 400 at the higher end. So it means what we heard today is probably some increase of anywhere from 25 to 50% on what the street was expecting in terms of shipments between now and the end of 26. That's extraordinary. And NVIDIA's always been this story where we've all known it was extraordinary. It was just how much more extraordinary. I think today was more extraordinary.
100%, Tim's right. And you mentioned he has a fiduciary responsibility to his shareholders,
yes,
and he's doing it extraordinarily well. So good for him. Making deals, currying favor, all those things. Problem I've had incorrectly has been, price to sales. Now, you said $5 trillion. Let's round up. I mean, this is a company now that's approaching 19 times revenue, which is a big number at this mature of a company, I think. But people will say it's a new paradigm that will grow into that revenue. We shall see. November 19th, with this market move, that's when we report. It's going to be a fascinating day.
Yeah, it's also interesting the clout that Jensen now is having. When the president threatened to send troops to San Francisco, Jensen was one of the CEOs that got him on the horn, and he stepped back from that. And so, we talk about this transactional nature that this administration has with business, and I think that's a great example of it. The one thing I'd say about NVIDIA, and Mel, you just said that, one way to add market cap to your company is do a deal with them. Well, Uber closed down in the day. Palantir actually was unchanged on the day. And at some point, it's not going to be that exciting to do a deal with them that's on the come in the future. And I think when there's been hundreds of companies that NVIDIA has invested in over the last few years. And a lot of those investments have to do with these companies. That was the Uber deal of buying these chips. So when you get this $500 billion number, and this company is expected to do, let's say, $300 billion in sales next year, you have to start scratching your head a little bit whether we're getting a little too far over our skis. And then the other thing about this circular nature of all this investment, and then they buy the chips back, this is becoming very financialized. It used to be you sell a product, someone buys the product, they put it into work, they get a profit from it. If it goes really well, then they buy your next product, right? So you think about it now, a lot of the financings and all this stuff that's going on in and away from NVIDIA too, there is a lot tied into this one name right now that used to not be it. It was a single play on the build out of this theme, and then we had the hyperscalers. But now it's moving all over the place, and it's infected the markets, and there is risk to that. There is risk that people are saying $5 trillion is going to be $6 trillion really soon, and I just can't find anybody who thinks that there's some danger to this for the broad market, not just this name in particular.
Yeah, I have a hard time arguing with that point. You mentioned two terms.
As much as I'd like to.
Circular and financial engineering. And I do want to acknowledge that there is a fair amount of that going on. With that said, I think I view it through the opposite lens. The knock on NVIDIA coming in was that it was a hardware company, that it would be subject to cyclical nature and pullbacks. And what they've done, and it was somewhat self-serving likely, but what they essentially said was, listen, we want to push into China because we want the world building on our technology, American technology and NVIDIA's technology. And all they've done is essentially replicate that within the United States. They are now on the public and private side with this Palantir deal. They have backed Circle and the NeoCloud companies. There is no way to continue to build up without being on the CUDA stack, whether it be the individual chip. They have found a way to spread their tentacles, if you will, into all of the different facets of AI. And that is why I think that maybe the $5 or $6 trillion number might actually be too low. There seems to be no way to push forward into AI. And we were worried about what their role would be within agentic and inference AI. And now they've kind of leapfrogged themselves into a leadership position in that next wave. And so it is circular. And I want to acknowledge the risk that you're putting out there. But it essentially guarantees that they continue to be at this very center of this AI flywheel.
Communications better than Nokia. They've been at it for a long time. They're all over the world. And between our two partnerships, we now have wireless telecommunications, we have AI, and we have accelerated computing, all in this partnership. And so all of that capability is going to be brought to bear for the next generation of 6G. And I think that's the capabilities we bring together in this partnership is quite unique and formidable.
Why was it important, Jensen, that NVIDIA ends up with almost 3% of Nokia? What was the rationale behind that?
The work that we're doing is so intensive, and quite frankly, I was so optimistic about it and so excited about it, and that we wanted to invest in Nokia so that we could be part of this incredible success that we're creating together. And I got to tell you, that move was pretty genius, wouldn't you say?
That's not for me to comment on. What I'd observe is, a 25% jump in the ADRs. What does that signal to you? NVIDIA, with respect, Jensen, I've known to be about speed. Is it that they're giving you a technology that you wouldn't otherwise have, or have you now a way of just moving faster?
Yeah, it's both. I mean, there's obviously, there's no way we're going to have NVIDIA's technology and accelerated computing. I mean, the CUDA software stack, all of the capabilities, even the fundamentals of what's in Ariel, the software stack that NVIDIA has built, is an accelerator for us. And then it's about speed, because now we can innovate much faster. And for us, it's that shift into adding value in software and thinking more like a software company, or really not like a software company, like an application company that's going to use AI and AI models to continue to innovate and move faster. And I think the market recognizes that this is the kind of innovation that this industry has needed. Look, this industry has a history. 3G, we were building better voice networks when the internet was getting started. 4G, 5G, we were building data networks behind where the market was. And today, 5G, when you look at it globally, is still only partially deployed. So as you look ahead, in order to innovate, you've got to move much faster. And we need to enable our customers to have different and better technology.
And with this partnership, all of us, speaking of speed, we're in Blackwell today. It's going to go to Rubin. It's going to go Feynman. And it's going to go on a clip that basically is at the speed of light. And
I've got to ask you to clarify something, Jensen. You showed a slide behind you. $500 billion over what I think illustrated 6 financial quarters, but 20 million Blackwell.
5 financial quarters.
5 financial quarters. Does that figure include networking? We know it doesn't include China, because it seemed to be technically above consensus, right? But you seem to be suggesting that there is near term actually an acceleration beyond what you were expecting.
All of that was only data center.
Just data
That's
center.
the amazing thing. All of that is only data center. Today we announced several new platforms. The NVIDIA Drive Hyperion platform, our ARC platform, our Quantum platform. None of that is included in that $500 billion.
No networking.
No networking whatsoever. Well, that's data center, so networking, NVIDIA networking for data centers, but not wireless networking, not wireless telecommunications.
When do we see a real world manifestation of the work that you're both going to do together?
Yep, there's work going already. You can see a demo actually at the booth here in GTC. You'll also see customer trials early next year, and then we think in full commercial production in 27. And the great thing about the partnership with Jensen is I know he'll be pushing me to go faster, and I'll be pushing his team to go faster, and together that means that we can get to market as soon as practical for our customers.
And ARC is backwards compatible with AirScale.
Right.
And all of those millions of base stations could be upgraded to 6G and AI.
There's a lot of skepticism on 6G though, right? Like, we're agreeing standards. Just a simple yes or no question, really. Is the 6G timeline accelerated because of this partnership?
I think it is, because what you can actually do now is, exactly to what Jensen said, you can deploy with ARC, and then if something happens or the standard evolves or there's changes, it'll just be a software model update that we deploy in applications. It's a completely different model than what we're used to back in the days of deploying these complex integrated legacy appliances. It's general purpose accelerated computing, and that's why we think it's so compelling.
If the standards change, you got to go fix a chip. If the standards change, you're and I just upgrade the software, the CUDA software. That's the amazing thing.
Jensen, you are traveling onwards now to Asia. I don't know what your schedule is for the jet, and I don't know if you and the president will be at the same place at the same time. He seemed to think you would be. But the main point is that you're here in Washington, D.C. We're a few blocks from the White House. You called it the AI Super Bowl, others called it that too. But everyone is inferring from this that this was about all of the things we talked about all year. That you want to be closely aligned with this administration. And while in Asia, that there is something that the president needs to work on in the context of China trade negotiations. Whether you get to meet him or not, what is it that you need the president to do for NVIDIA to accelerate on its plans?
We need the president to do what's right for America, and I'm certain he's going to go do that. The reason why we're here is because technology is now so important in politics and geopolitics. It is the single most important industry in America. It is our national treasure, and it's important for us to make sure that Washington, D.C. and the policymakers and all of the people who serve our country to make it great understands the technology as it stands today and where we're going to go, and the companies that matter to us so that we can make America great. And so that was the primary reason. Well, first of all, whenever there's an opportunity to see the president, I always love that. He's incredibly engaging. He's always learning, and he wants to help America win. He wants America to win.
This is my final question. I was trying to interpret what you were saying. It was a detailed presentation, but you talked about how AI is now worth paying for. You talked about the end or not of Moore's law, depending on your point of view, but the need to scale to meet demand. Was that you saying we are not in an AI bubble?
I don't believe we're in an AI bubble. And the reason for that is we're going through a natural transition from an old computing model based on general purpose computing to accelerated computing. We also know that AI has now become good enough because of reasoning capability, research capabilities, its ability to think. It's now generating tokens and now generating intelligence that's worth paying for, to the point where I'm paying lots of it. Cursor is all over NVIDIA. Every single one of our engineers use it. We pay lots and lots of money for it, and we're delighted to do it. And Cursor is just one of the applications. You know, what is it? 11 Tech, I forget. But anyways, all of these different AI models that we're using plenty of services and paying happily doing it.